Right now, something is happening in the housing market that shouldn't be possible. Homes are barely selling. Transaction volume is near record lows. And yet, prices are still sitting close to all-time highs. Think about that for a second. In any normal market, when fewer people are buying, prices fall. That's basic economics, but this time the rules have changed. And if you're wondering why it feels impossible to afford a home today, why everything seems stuck, and why no relief is coming anytime soon, this is the reality no one is fully explaining. Because what we're seeing right now is not random, it's not temporary. It's the result of a chain reaction that started years ago and is now locking an entire generation out of homeownership. To understand this, you have to go back to 2020. When the world shut down, something unexpected happened. The housing market didn't crash, it exploded. At the same time, millions of people were suddenly working from home. Location no longer mattered. People wanted bigger houses, more space, quieter neighborhoods. This created a massive surge in demand almost overnight. Buyers flooded the market. Competition intensified, bidding wars became normal, and in just 2 years, home prices across the United States jumped by roughly 37%. That kind of growth wasn't healthy. It wasn't sustainable. It was a shock to the system. But then came the second shock, and this one changed everything. Inflation surged to 9.1%, the highest level in decades. And to fight it, the Federal Reserve moved aggressively. Interest rates started rising fast. Mortgage rates climbed from those ultra-low levels to nearly 8% in a very short period of time. Now here's where things break. At 3% interest, a home might feel affordable. But at 8%, that same home suddenly becomes dramatically more expensive. We're not talking about small increases. Monthly payments jumped by hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars. So demand didn't just slow down, it collapsed. Because interest breaks you from the inside without you knowing it. Buyers stepped back. Many were completely priced out. Others chose to wait. But here's the twist. Even though demand dropped, supply didn't increase. In fact, it did the opposite. This is where the housing market entered a freeze. And the reason is something called the lock-in effect. During the pandemic, millions of homeowners locked in mortgage rates below 4%, some even lower. Now imagine you're one of those homeowners. You're paying a low monthly mortgage. Life is manageable, maybe even comfortable. Now ask yourself, would you sell your home today? Because if you do, you don't just move. You give up that low rate forever. And replacing it means taking on a new mortgage at nearly double the interest rate. That could increase your monthly payment by $1,000 or more. So what do most people do? They stay exactly where they are. And when millions of homeowners make that same decision at the same time, inventory disappears. Fewer homes hit the market. Fewer transactions happen. Everything slows down. This is why the housing market feels frozen. But there's another layer to this problem, and it goes even deeper. For over a decade after the 2008 financial crisis, home building in the United States slowed dramatically. Developers pulled back. Construction declined. Fewer homes were built year after year. And today, that shortage has caught up with us. The country is now short by an estimated 3.5 to 4.5 million housing units, especially entry-level homes, the kind first-time buyers actually need. So even though demand has weakened, there still aren't enough homes available, and that's why prices aren't falling the way people expect. This is what makes today's situation so different from 2008. Back then, the market collapsed because of bad loans and risky lending. People couldn't afford their homes, defaults skyrocketed, and supply flooded the market. But today, most homeowners are financially stable. They have fixed-rate mortgages. They're not being forced to sell. Instead of too many homes, we have too few. And instead of a crash, we have a standstill. But for the average person, this doesn't feel stable at all. It feels impossible. Because for the middle class, the numbers simply don't work anymore. Home prices are high, interest rates are high, wages haven't kept up, and that creates a brutal reality. More and more people are being priced out entirely. In fact, the median age of a first-time home buyer is now approaching 40 years old. Think about that. An entire generation is being pushed further and further away from homeownership. Not because they don't want it, but because they can't make the math work. So what happens next? A lot of people are waiting for a crash. They're expecting prices to suddenly fall and reset the market. But that's unlikely, because the conditions that cause crashes simply aren't here. Instead, what we're likely to see is something slower, something more frustrating. Prices may stop rising rapidly. They may move sideways for years, while incomes slowly catch up. Not a collapse, but a long period of stagnation. And for buyers, this changes everything. Because the biggest mistake you can make right now is rushing into a decision based on fear. Just because everyone says you need to buy doesn't mean you should. You have to run the numbers honestly. If your housing costs are going beyond 30% of your income, you're putting yourself in a risky position. And in this market, risk can be very expensive. There are still opportunities. New construction homes, for example, sometimes offer incentives like temporary rate buy-downs. But even then, you have to be careful, because sometimes those incentives are built into a higher price. And if you're not paying attention, you're not saving money, you're just paying differently. At the end of the day, this housing market isn't broken by accident. It's the result of years of decisions, economic shocks, and unintended consequences all colliding at once. And until those forces begin to unwind, this frozen, expensive, frustrating market may not be temporary at all. It may be the new normal.